The world is a vampire.
Looking for some change.
Welcome back, Gainers, to another incredible, exciting, fantastic episode of ComicGains. And if you're new to the show, I'm Adam.
I'm Zach, and this is the Princess Royal House, looking very lovely today, just like usual. Doing that princess wave, you do too. Bow down respect, and of course, there's the Coco dog.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Coco. Getting feisty. She's getting feisty. She's probably excited because it's Monday and the Bloodhunt is back, guys. Ooh, we're going to go over part 3 and part 4 in one episode. So hope you guys got some time carved out. Zach's like, huh? How long? No. But, yeah, guys, we've done part 1 and part 2 of Bloodhunt, and I've been reading all the issues and the tie-ins, and I wanted to keep everybody filled in on what's going on with the hottest Marvel event in the last century. Well, at least the last year.
It's so hot right now.
Right? It's incredibly hot. So, before we get into any of the juicy, bloody details of the Bloodhunt and where we are so far, let's drink some blood.
Yes. 4 Seasons types of blood. It's a Philippine brand, 4 Seasons, juice nectar, whatever. It's a saisons? I don't know. I think it's Spanish. I don't understand it. I'm just gonna drink
the blood of a pineapple.
Blood.
That's kind of what it is, right? Like you're literally just drinking the blood of the fruit.
I think there's 4 different fruits.
We're all vampires.
4 Seasons. Oh,
Good.
that's good.
Tasty?
Yeah, it's tasty.
It's tasty.
Yum, the nectar.
You know what else is tasty? Hanging out with us on Whatnot. Almost every Saturday, Princess will be on this weekend at 5 p.m. Pacific time this weekend. So come hang out. Dollar starts, 30-second auctions. Probably one of the best shows on Whatnot. Adam and Zach will be on soon. But we already have a show listed, so check us out on there. All right, let's hop right into the Bloodhunt. Like I said, we've already been covering phase 1, phase 2. I made up these phases, so they're not like official phases. I kind of have them blocked off by like the book, The Bloodhunt. And as you guys know, how Marvel events have been happening over the last like 5 years. There's the main event, the book. You know, this one is obviously called Bloodhunt. So there's Bloodhunt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's this massive amount of tie-ins. Years ago, books had small amount of tie-ins. You know, maybe 1 or 2 or no tie-ins. And then each year they grow and they grow and they grow. And I don't know the exact record. This may be the most amount of tie-ins for...
That's a lot.
Yeah. So, our first couple shows, I really broke down all the tie-ins and wanted to understand if they were important or not. Over this time reading the 40-plus issues that go into this, they are not that important in this. Some of them are important, but most of them are not. So, in this particular episode... I'm only going to really break down and explain to the team the 2 books, the Bloodhunt 3 and the Bloodhunt 4. But because I read all the other books, I'll give you guys whether or not I like them or if they were important. So hopefully, if you guys missed anything from before, check out our previous videos because they explain kind of how this whole thing gets started. But yeah, there's some really... So let's just jump right into it. We got Bloodhunt. Issue number 3 is going to kick it off. And these are in the reading order, at least provided to us by Marvel. So this is the order that they want you to read them in. It's the order I read them in. Okay. So the great Jed MacKay and Pepe Larraz. Jed MacKay is the major mind behind all of Bloodhunt. And Pepe Larraz is just drawing the Bloodhunt issues, not drawing the other ones that go along with it. But fantastic artist so far. This jumps right in. As you can see, Miles is a vampire on the cover, and this kind of jumps right into that. This is right at the end of issue 2. We find out that Miles has secretly been a vampire this whole time, which is going to have major repercussions going forward in the Marvel universe, because a lot of people are speculating that Miles may stay a vampire after this. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I mean, might be cool. I mean, if it's more like Blade or
even Jubilee, right?
Or
Morbius.
Well, I'm saying like as long as it's kind of like a normal vampire, it's kind of like cool.
Yeah.
Maybe he goes evil face every once in a while.
And there's a good explanation in this one as well too. So starts off, you're in the Impossible City, which is like the lair for the vampires, like their special lair. And you got Blade is checking in with T'Challa, like kind of via this mind power. And T'Challa is been a vampire. He got bit as well, so he sent him on a special mission. We don't quite know yet, like, what he's looking for Blade, but he's definitely, like, on the hunt for something, right? The blood hunt. And Wanda, like, kind of pokes fun on the blood hunt's return, or on the blood coven's return. So Wanda is a prisoner of Blade still. She's still a prisoner. Thor and her are both prisoners of Blade. And the Blood Coven has just come back from fighting the Avengers, and they got their, like, butts kicked. Remember in the last book where the Avengers came back and they're like, hey, we know how to fight you guys now. So they kicked the crap out of them. And then we move over to the Sanctum Sanctorum. So this leads off where the group was all together. You have, like, Doctor Strange and Clea. You have Dracula and Brielle and Miles. This is where he reveals that he is a vampire, and he's also, like, crazy. So he's, like, all crazy as a vampire. And immediately they use the Crimson Bands of Sidorak and the Eye of Agamotto, and they solve this problem. So he loses his madness, and he is still a vampire, but he's no longer, like, a crazy, like, blood crazy person.
Okay.
Kind of cool, right?
Blood fiend.
Yeah, he's no longer, like, a blood fiend. And this is really important because now he's not cured, but he's smart. So, like, I guess it's kind of weird that they're like, he's all crazy, he's working for the bad guys, and all of a sudden he's not. So the team here is kind of talking here with, like, Brielle, and they're, like, letting her know, like, hey, we found out who the main bad guy is, and guess what? It's
Blade.
It's Blade. So she's just finding out for the first time. And they let her know that there's only one person who can kill Blade, and it is
Dracula?
her.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're like, you're the only one that can kill her. And so she's like, that sucks. Like, I don't want to be, like, responsible for having to kill my father. So she leaves and runs away immediately. She just, like, bounces out while they're all talking. And the two people that follow her is Dracula and Miles. So they're like, we'll get her. And the team's like, no, don't leave. And the team splits up. This is kind of like an issue with this particular book. I do like this issue a lot, issue 3, but it's sort of like your typical main book tie-in splitter where they're like, they show you all the characters, and then they're like, these are the stories that they're going to be doing. Like, if you want to hear more, check it out in their books. It's like they're all together. Now they're going to all split up. It's like, if you want to see what happens to Brielle, read Dracula. If you want to see what happens to Miles, read Miles. If you want to see what happens, to Tigra and Hunter's Moon, read Moon Knight. It's sort of, right? So I like more when there's a little bit more story involved, but this happened a lot when I was reading, like, Edge of Spider-Verse, if anybody remembers that too. They did that, like, a ton in Edge of Spider-Verse. So the team splits up. They're all like splitting up here. So, like, there's Miles and Dracula leaving, and then on the next one here, then this is kind of cool. So Hunter's Moon and Tigra, they're leaving too. They're like, hey, we're gonna go on a mission, and they ask Clea for help. So they're like, hey, Clea, can you send us somewhere? Clea's got the mystical arts, and she can, like, transport somebody. But they do allude that they need a mystery partner. So they're like, send us somewhere so we can get, like, our mystery partner, which is kind of cool. But, like, who is the mystery partner? Like, could it be Moon Knight? Could it be, obviously right now Moon Knight's dead. Could it be, like, somebody else? So I think it's kind of interesting that they're, like, alluding to that. And this part I forgot about and is really cool, but the Avengers are left over. So you've got, like, Falcon and Captain Marvel and Vision, and I think Tony's in there as well too. And they're saying, like, the world's kind of effed up right now, and there's not a lot of hope, and everybody thinks, like, the world's going to end. We need, like, this amazing speech. And right now the leader of the Avengers is Captain Marvel. So they're like, hey, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, can you give a speech to the world and let them know, like, everything's okay? And she's like, well, you know how things have gone for me lately and nobody really likes me? Maybe it's not a good idea if I give a speech there. Because, she's like the bad guy in, like, Civil War II and everything. I don't think, even though she's the leader of the Avengers, I don't think she's everybody's favorite person. So who steps up? It's got to be Falcon.
Falcon. Yeah.
Sam Wilson. And if you ever get a chance, I won't read this to you guys, but it's a very long, cool speech that he gives basically about all the bad things that they've gone through and how they've overcome them. And even talks here about, like when Noel came and they had to face Noel and a bunch of other stuff, even like Galactus. He talks about, like, when they had to face Galactus and how, like, the world stood together and like overcame like all these like terrible things, and it's like pointed like, we need you to be a part. But it goes on like a while. It's like a whole bunch of pages of this like really long, cool speech, and I really enjoyed the speech. And at the end of the book, you get Blade. See, the speech goes on. It's still like going on. They're telling like good speech, but at the end of the book, Blade and the Blood Coven are together, and they're releasing like one of their final spells, and it brings out what do they call it? The Temple of the First Blasphemy, and it releases this temple that's like, it's an older place where they were able to do spells to release a new god, and they'll get more into that later. But that's kind of like the big reveal of this story, is that the Temple of the First Blasphemy appears, and like I said, there's some cool stuff that goes in this, but it's very much like the team's all back together. Now let's split them all apart and read all the books that go along with it.
Give us all your money.
Right?
So we can buy many Lamborghinis.
Exactly. So, decent little story. Like I said, I like this one, but it's not my favorite. Not my favorite of the Bloodhunt so far, but it's cool. Miles is on the cover. There is a Red Band edition of this. We only bought the issue number 2 of Red Band, and it was cool. There's some extra blood and gore in there. It wasn't really worth spending the extra $1 just to see that. You can like check it out online if you really want to see the differences. Doesn't seem to really affect the story much either. So, I don't know. To each his own on that Red Band edition. All right, let's jump into it. So, they showed us a bunch of cool stuff. Let's take a look at the tie-ins. Let's check them out. See how the team feels about all the tie-ins in Phase 3 and 4. The first tie-in we're going to go over is Dracula, issue number 2. And just some quick stuff. This follows Bloodline Brielle. It's not the best story. She loses her confidence, obviously, because she learns she has to kill her father. And she goes and kills a bunch of vampires. You can see Daredevil's on the cover. He shows up, and like she's like, hey, can we team up together and kill some vampires? She's like, sure, I don't really know you, but whatever. And then, then he's like, hey, you know what you need is a nice warm hug. And he gives her a hug. And then Dracula was like, hey, she's with me. And he's like, no, she's not going in with you, old geezer. And then they duke it out. Dracula stomps the hell out of him. And that's pretty much this whole issue. It's like, it's kind of cool. I really enjoying Brielle in the series because I didn't enjoy her as much originally when she first came out, so I like her more. However, I don't think this issue is super important. At the very end, you do get to see the Blade finds her, and he looks weird. He kind of looks like half bat, and that's like how the book ends. So, decent little thing. Like I said, it's like minor important details, but not much. It's a lot of them killing vampires, and like I said, she like loses her confidence.
Emotional damage.
Right? But she gets a warm hug.
Daddy, no. And maybe... No.
Yeah. It's not her father, Dracula.
No. I'm just saying, like, Daredevil was always trying to make a move, and then Dracula's like, no, this has been scouted out.
I think she's in college. I think.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
What, Bloodline? Yeah.
Is she?
She's old enough.
Okay. The next book.
Let's go.
Oh, okay. So this is Jubilee, the one-shot Bloodhunt. This is not the regular cover. It's the Scotty Young cover. I don't know why. Zach probably has this feeling that. Like, why would Jean Grey be on the cover?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I
bet she's not even in the book.
She's not in the book. I feel like sometimes they ask Scotty to do these covers, and then they're like, hey, can you draw Jubilee? And he's like, no. Like, she's not important enough. Like, I'll draw Marvel Girl, but not Jubilee.
A gigantic Marvel Girl in the style of Scotty Young. What the?
I don't know. But this is a single shot tie-in, so it's not going to have any extra books that go along with it. This book has pretty much zero importance to do with Bloodhunt, although I actually thought this was a really good story and the artwork was really good. Oh. So if you're a big Jubilee fan, an X-Men fan, I would recommend maybe reading this book. I like I said, I really enjoyed it. I don't see what it has to do with Bloodhunt other than that vampires.
Does she become a vampire in this?
No, but Jubilee is fighting vampires because that's kind of how these stories go. And she runs into a girl who recently gets bit and becomes a vampire. And Jubilee's like, okay, I'm going to try and help this girl. And so the girl has turned, but she's like, I'm gonna save you from becoming a full-fledged vampire. And this old group I'm not familiar with called the Forgiven show up, and they are friends with Jubilee, and apparently that's her old vampire buddies when she was a vampire. She was on a team of good vampires.
Okay.
And they looked cool. They looked very 90s or early 2000s. Is that when she was a vampire?
Yeah, like X-Force.
Yeah.
Not the original X-Force, like the second or third.
They're all characters I'm not familiar with. They're all vampires, and they help out Jubilee, and then they take her back to the secret hideout, and then they let Jubilee know, like, we'll take care of your new vampire friend. She can live with us, and everything will be cool. I kind of felt like there was a little bit of, like, a relationship, maybe, with Jubilee and this new vampire girl, but she leaves at the end of the book and was like, you can stay with with my old team, and they will train you in the art. They say they can't fix her, so
a trainer.
They'll have to which is weird because I thought if you killed the alpha that changed them, that they turn back, but I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Whoever wrote this book wasn't paying attention to that other storyline. But like I said, the art's fantastic in this book, and I did like the story. Like, Jubilee kicks some butt.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
she's like. Zach likes Jubilee a lot, right?
Oh, I do. She's
all right.
She's hot.
Next up. We're going quick on these, right? Just feeling good about these.
Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper, issue number 2, Bloodhunt. I almost thought about going through this book for you guys because the first issue was so good, surprisingly really good. The artwork was weird but good at the same time.
This
one was good too, but I really wanted to only go deep with you guys on stuff that had to do with Bloodhunt, and I'm not sure with this one. I'm not sure, other than the vampires being, what this has to do with Bloodhunt. Because it feels like there's vampires everywhere. Obviously, If you ever seen a Blade movie, they got like outposts all over the world. This book takes place in the Great Britain, across the pond, and Union Jack, who's a pretty cool character. He saves a group of people in the first book and takes them back to his hideout. And this issue feels a lot like The Walking Dead. So very much, he has a group of randos in his place. There's full of weapons there, and a whole bunch of vampires show up, surround him, and you get to see the people he saved killing vampires and them getting killed by vampires. You kind of like, oh, this guy's cool, and then he gets killed by a vampire. Then a girl that they're with kills a vampire. It's just a bunch of back and forth. Like, he loses a friend, the vampire dies, yada yada yada, back and forth. And this book is way more gory than a lot of the other ones, even though it's not Red Band. So a lot of heads getting just destroyed. He wraps chains around his hands and starts punching vampires until they're nothing but piles of blood. Pretty cool. And there is a really fun scene at the end. So we find out that his friend, the British Bulldog, who's part of his team, was changed into a vampire.
Yeah. And
he has him locked up in his basement, and he thinks he's maybe be able to cure him. There's this part where you see a vampire creeping up behind him, and they kind of allude that it is the British Bulldog vampire is gonna jump on him and kill him. And it's like he's creeping behind this wall, and then out of nowhere a vampire jumps on him, and he's about to bite Union Jack in the neck. And you're like, oh no, and he turns around and just kills that vampire. And you're like, oh, that's the end of the British Bulldog. But then behind him is the British Bulldog vampire, which is super creepy looking because he has no eyes anymore. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna team up with you guys, let's kill some vamps. And it's like, okay, cool. It's like this switcheroo sort of thing. Like, they made you think that they killed him, but then they didn't, and now he's part of their little vampire killing team.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Sounds like a fun read.
It's not bad. Like I said, the artwork is different. It looks like Walking Dead. If you guys ever read Walking Dead, it looks like Walking Dead, feels like Walking Dead.
Could have also been Walking Dead. Who knows?
Could have also been Walking Dead. Just some regular people killing vampires. No one with a lot of superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's jump into it next, guys. We're going to go through all the I think I actually missed some tie-ins, so, sorry about that. But
comment down below and explain to us what we missed.
Yeah.
In detail.
I know there's a couple I didn't get to read, but... All right, we got Doctor Strange issue 16. I also thought this issue was going to be more important than it was because Jed MacKay writes this one, and most of the ones that have been Doctor Strange events, this one was not as important, so that's why I didn't cover it as deep as we could have. that's kind of cool. They actually explain the Crypt of Shadows. Maybe I should have known what those were, but the Crypt of Shadows is a mirror universe branch off of the Sanctum Sanctorum. So they show you that. So they lead into the Crypt of Shadows. Victor Strange, who is Doctor Strange's brother, who is a ghost and a vampire. He's a vampire ghost. He's stuck in the Crypt of Shadows. He's an old villain of Doctor Strange's. And it's kind of strange. Oh, the pun there, right? Kind of strange. That when he died, he actually turned into a good guy before he died. So it's kind of weird that they've reverted him back to a bad guy. And they kind of point that out a little bit, like, hey, weren't you a good guy when you died? He's like, yeah, but I don't care about that anymore. So obviously he's a ghost that's a vampire, and he needs to find a body that is a vampire that doesn't have a soul in it. So obviously what's floating around the Sanctum Sanctorum is
Strange. Oh, no, Stephen Strange's ghost.
Yeah, or his body. Because apparently, it's kind of weird the way this works, but Doctor Strange left his body, and apparently his body is the vampire, but his mind is not. So his mind is floating around as a cool thing, but no one's inside his body. So Wong is guarding his body, and Victor pops out, gets inside the body, and then the whole issue, he fights Wong. So it's like him and Wong fighting, and it's like a back and forth. Like Wong's like, hey, I'm a way better fighter than you. Da-da-da, like stomping kicking his butt. And then Victor's like, hey, the more you beat me up, the more you're beating up your best friend. So you may not want to do that. And then he kind of backs off, and then Victor starts to get the upper hand on him. And it's just like this whole, I can't hurt you because, but like I said, it's an okay book. But like, that's all it is. It's just them fighting back and forth. It does lead you into a little cool thing at the end where Bats, who's that floating dog from the Donny Cates run, shows up at the end, and he like goes to get someone to help them in their endeavors, and he goes to get Mordo. So that's the reveal at the end of this one where they're like, hey, let's get some Baron Mordo. Yeah, like I said, just decent story on this one. Good artwork, but I don't know. I'm wondering like how Victor Strange is really going to tie into the whole Bloodhunt. Although the person that does convince him to take the body, I forgot about this. When he's in the Crypt of Shadows, this random shadow person starts telling him like, hey, there's a body up there. Go get in the body. And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, you should get it. It's Blade. So there is a little bit of a connection there.
Okay.
So maybe we'll see him later on.
Interesting.
Maybe. If we're lucky.
And then the Moon Knight.
If we're really lucky, we'll get a Moon Knight book. So this one too, I thought I may do like a full review, but again, another Jed MacKay book. He's writing the Moon Knight series. Been fantastic. Doesn't have that much to do with the Bloodhunt, other than that there's a lot of vampires in it. So you got Reese, Soldier, and 8-Ball are the main characters of the story. If that sounds weird, it's because it is. There have been pretty major characters in the Moon Knight book, so you shouldn't be like, oh my god, I have no idea who these people are. They're pretty fleshed out. They have like good backgrounds. They've had good arcs. Two of them were not vampires and have become vampires. So Reese and Soldier are actually both vampires, and 8-Ball is that old school villain who turned hero that has a giant 8-ball for a head. They are out on the town saving people from vampires. So they're fighting vampires and saving people, which is kind of weird because they're also vampires. So they run into this guy who's like, hell no, I'm not going with you. You guys are vampires. Like, why would I? You guys are just going to eat me. And they're like, we're going to leave this guy behind because we can't help him. And then they go a little bit further on their quest, and they run into some other person, but they run into this person and they learn a lesson where it's like, Moon Knight would never leave anybody behind. So we better go back and save that guy. Convince him that we're not going to eat him, and they do, So
they convince him.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, Reese, who's like the female vampire, is a pretty cool chick, but she kind of like goes back and has to have like a heart to heart with the guy. Like, I understand you think I want to kill you, but I'm not going to, and that's pretty much the book. That's pretty much it. Like I said, it's like no, and I don't even think that there's not even like really a reveal. Oh, at the end of the book. Very end of the book, they look up at the sky and the moon is in the sky. Which so far, the moon's been completely blacked out, so that kind of gives you an idea of maybe something to come. But the moon is in the sky at the end of the book. They always leave a reveal. They gotta get the next issue.
Okay, here we go. Here we go.
So if we're getting the next issue, Strange Academy issue 2, Bloodhunt tie-in. So the first one had a lot of good stuff in it. They introduced that new character, Pia, who turned out to be a vampire, and also showed you that the dark home has turned into a kid. And there's some fun stuff. This has been cool. If you guys aren't familiar with German, I think we have a picture of him here. He's that kid that can create like animals, green animals out of his power, sort of like Beast Boy.
Okay.
But he doesn't turn into the animals. They like pop out of his body and they do like his dirty work for him, like magic green animals.
Sounds fun.
He's a cool character. He's been on Strange Academy since the beginning of the Academy, since the very first book, and he's probably the least showcased person on the entire team. Like every once in a while they have him kind of talk and do some stuff, but he's never the main character, like, ever. So in this one, he's the main character. He's the main character, and he has formed a little bit of a relationship with Pia, the vampire girl. So and she has a little floating bunny or something, remember, that keeps her so the sun doesn't hurt her. So she has a little floating bunny. He has some other floating animals that kind of hang out together. They run into like Agatha Harkness. She's still sexy. She's looking for the Darkholme kid. You're not really sure if she's good or bad. I always feel like I'm never sure if Agatha's good or bad. You know? Is she?
I'm guessing in this case she'll be good because she wants to control the world, not have someone else control.
Yeah. Didn't she used to like work for the Fantastic Four though? Like as like their nanny or something?
No, that might be right.
Yeah.
With Franklin Richards and all that.
Yeah.
She turned young.
So, in this, the big surprise, which is kind of nice, is Doctor Doom shows up, and they need to ask like Doctor Doom for help, and so that kind of leaves it off there. Sort of like the big reveal for this one is that now they're with Doctor Doom. The only thing that's a little strange in the artwork in this one, if you guys read this, is you see the big guy in the back there, Zach? Gus.
Yeah.
So Gus is the ice giant.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Gus is gigantic. Like, he's huge. Like, whenever they go into a building, Gus will be, like, not in the building because he's too big to fit in the building. He's a giant ice giant. For some reason, and the artwork is really good in this book, for some reason, the artist decided to draw Gus like a regular-sized dude. For, like, part of the book, he's, like, standing next to him, and he's, like, the same height as the rest of the kids. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, why is it the same size?
This person never read
Someone forgot something, but... overall, though, this is a good book. I do recommend this. I think Doctor Doom coming in the story is going to have some repercussions for the upcoming issues, so keep that in mind. This is not a wasted time. I would say it's a pretty good one.
Oh, good one?
Yeah,
okay.
I probably could have explained this one a little bit deeper, but for time's sake, right?
Exactly.
We only live once. We only have a little bit of time in this world.
Mm-hmm.
You have to spend it reading the Bloodhunt. Oh, you can do both of them at the same time. They can do two. Well, look at that. Look at we're saving time already. This is how important this book is. We got Wolverine #1, which is weird because I think it says like one shot on the cover or the Wolverine. I don't think it says 1 of 2, right? Yeah, it just says tie-in issue 1, and then for some reason they decided to do a second issue out of nowhere. And a lot of people like this book because it's Wolverine killing vampires. Can't really go wrong with that, right? I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, although it feels like it's the least important book to the Bloodhunt of all. I feel like I'm like a broken record on that. But Wolverine in the first issue was in a bar having a drink, like Wolverine would. Some dudes show up, they're like, "Hey, we're vampires. You're a tough guy. We're gonna kill you." And he's like, "All right, I'm gonna kill you first." Then they go and fight each other. He meets up with a girl named Nightguard, who he apparently knows. I don't know if she's like an older character that I just didn't know about, but she's a vampire as well, and she used to be a part of a vampire hunting group. And her whole team gets killed, and she gets turned into a vampire. That doesn't happen in the story, but they like explain that's who she is and what she's all about. She's just there to help Wolverine kill some vampires. She's sexy, and she has like a laser sword, and it's a UV sword, and then she also has a UV crossbow. And the artwork is a little weird for me, and I think we have a picture here for you. It's kind of what is that called, like real life what is that when it looks like real people? Less cartoony?
Like realism?
Realism, yes. Realism. So it kind of threw me off a little bit. And then you jump right, so they reveal like almost nothing, except at the end, I think you get to see Maverick as a vampire. Second issue, Maverick, you find out he's in charge of these vampires that were going to kill, that he sent to kill Wolverine. I think he actually wants that Wolverine to become partners with him. He's like, hey, you could become a vampire, we could be buddies together. And then he reveals that he's working for another vampire named Alyssa, who's apparently a vampire lord. And she's like, hey, the sun's blocked out, and I'm already a vampire lord. Why don't I become the vampire lord? And that's their whole plan. And Wolverine at the end gets attacked by water vampires. So there's like these aqueous vampires show up. And
aquatic?
Yeah, I guess. It had like a weird spelling. Aquatic? That works. And they kind of look like the next issue, Wolverine's in a boat and he's being attacked by all these like sea vampires. So he's killed them in the air, on land, and now he's got to kill people in the sea. We'll see.
Oh my god.
Unless you really like seeing Wolverine kill vampires, I didn't care that much for this book, but maybe that's just me. Like I said, people have been excited about it. You like seeing Wolverine kill stuff, right?
I like seeing Wolverine kill stuff, but
that's what he's best at. Oh, we got Amazing Spider-Man Bloodhunt issue number 2, and this is an okay book. They have, so in this story you have two different groups of people. I think it's Misty Knight, Spider-Man, the Lizard are on a team, and then you've got Morbius and Colleen Wing are on another team. You got introduced also to this group called the Hemogoblins, which they're like this group of vampires that wanted Morbius to join them so that they explain they can like find a cure for vampirism. I don't know why they'd want to do that since they are vampires, but they show Morbius like, here's a vampire guy. We gave him the cure. Now he's not a vampire guy. And he's like, maybe I will hang out with you guys. So I don't think, they're not good. They're definitely bad. And they do show that they have Colleen Wing like in a cell there, and she is been turned. So she has been turned into a vampire.
Okay.
So they're like, maybe there's a chance they can free her. Jumping over, you got Spider-Man and Misty and Lizard, and they get to run into Maxine Danger, who I really like. Maxine Danger, she's the leader of the Beyond Corporation.
Oh, okay.
And I think the Beyond Corporation's really a fun company. They're like an evil sort of company, sort of, but then they also have like their own agenda. And if you didn't know, their first appearance is in Next Wave. Oh. So they're like the whole purpose behind Next Wave, as well as turning Ben Reilly into Chasm. So they've made some good choices and they've made some bad choices. But I think they could be cool to the story. They have something to do with the Hemogoblin group. Mm-hmm. So either they're secretly behind it or they're trying to steal the cure. I don't know. But that's where it leaves us off. You know?
Very cool.
So, a little mixture. It's sort of hard to see. I see these other stories starting to build up, but I don't see them like shifting over into the Blade story. You know what I mean? Like they're definitely fighting all the vampires.
Yeah.
But how is it going to shift over?
I don't know. It's so confusing.
Right? If you're getting confused. So this one I probably should have went into depth on because this is a pretty important story. I didn't know it at the time when I was reading it. It's kind of confusing, but this reveals a lot. So this is Black Panther issue number 2, the Bloodhunt saga. This does reveal something major, and you don't realize it till you're reading a different book. At least maybe I didn't realize it. Mm-hmm. But this kicks off eons ago. So they show you way, way, way in the past the temple of the first blasphemy. So that same temple that Blade summons later on, they show you this, whatever, I don't know if it's 1,000,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago, but they say eon. How long's an eon?
1,000 years.
Is it?
I believe so.
Okay.
Eon or...
But it says eons. So... But it could be.
Millennium is 100 years, right? No.
Yeah. Leave a comment down below. It says eons ago. But you get introduced to this character named Varney. Remember that name, Varney. So Varney, and I'm not really sure how they show him. He's like a demon type character, and he runs into a woman that's like praying to Khonshu, and he smashes her and like eats her. Oh, and Khonshu gets really pissed because he's like, that's one of my followers. And they show Khonshu, and then he runs into Bast, the Panther god, and then he gathers up a whole bunch of the gods together all like the different gods, and then they're like, hey, this guy Varney is trying to become a god. We need to we need to kick him down a notch. So we need to lock this fool up. So in the meantime, they bounce back and forth between Black Panther trying to complete this quest that he needed to do for T'Challa, and Bast is kind of with him at the same time. Bast is the Panther goddess, and she lets him know, I'm kind of disappointed in you that you're a vampire and you're not doing what I say. And they run into this river god who tries to kind of hook up with T'Challa. I think they do a little bit, at least kiss a little bit, because he needs to get something from her. And at this time, you do see that Black Panther's sort of getting healed because he did take the flower in the last book. And so he's a vampire, but he's also getting his smarts back, sort of like Miles a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And with the river god, he kind of alludes that he's going to get something from her that he needs. And she leads him down deep into the water. And who's deep in the water that you're going to run into? The Atlanteans. So the book ends with him running into the Atlanteans, and that's probably where Blade 3 or Black Panther 3 is going to jump onto. But I didn't realize how important that whole Varney interaction is with the gods until later, and we'll touch back on that, but it is really important. Varney. And they don't really say who he is, unless you know. I'm sure there's somebody that really smart that already knew who he was.
Maybe.
I was not that smart and knew who Varney was. This book, Midnight Suns, issue number 2. I do not remember reading Midnight Suns, issue number 1, which may be why this book was so confusing. But literally, like, almost nothing happens in this book. you got Tulip and Victoria, who are from the Blade miniseries, or regular series that has been going on. The two girls that teamed up with him, they are hanging out with Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch, and they all four of them have the same dream of a hospital in Chicago. And they're like, hey, we all had the same dream, let's go to this hospital. They go to the hospital, they meet a lady who's taking care of a kid, and the vampire shows up, tries to kill the lady. Ghost Rider, I think it's Ketch, comes out, kills him, does the whole like burns him alive kind of thing. And they for some reason are drawn to this hospital, and they don't know why. Out of nowhere, Blade busts in, and he's like, booga booga booga, and he's like, follow me, and he jumps out and turns into a bat, flies away. And they're like, I'll get him. And they're like, hey, there's a kind of a weird reason. Why would Blade like want us to follow him? Why don't you just fight us here? And so they're like, he's obviously trying to lead us away. He doesn't want us to be here. So let's not follow him. Let's stay here. And they reveal that there's a portal into hell that's there at the hospital. Oh. And that's why Blade was trying to get them to go away. Okay. So seriously, I was like reading the book, and I was like, is that it? That's all there was? Like, I felt like it was only like 5 pages and then it was over. So yeah. So yeah, you know. They're really trying to bring everybody into the Bloodhunt.
Lackluster.
All right, then we move on to the main event. We've got Bloodhunt issue number 4. Jed MacKay and Pepe Larraz. You can say the back book the back book's a secret book. Same group that did Bloodhunt 3, so I don't need to touch on them again. But this book was freaking awesome. So really, really good. So pay attention, Zach. He's like, I'm all eyes. This totally redeemed the series for me. So if you guys haven't read Bloodhunt issue 4, get into it. Definitely check it out. We start back at the Temple of the First Blasphemy. They are revealing, obviously, this is where Blade's going to do some sort of spell to get something that he wants. So they just show you the temple, then it bounces right over, and you get to see Clea and Doctor Strange, and they're sitting in Doctor Doom's throne room, and they're like, yo, we need some help. Can you help us? And he's like, maybe I will. Then we get the big reveal. So the Blood Coven, it bounces back and forth. So we're back at the Temple of the Blasphemy. Blade is with the Blood Coven, and he's with T'Challa. And T'Challa, I think at this point, has gotten the thing he needs, even though they haven't shown us yet. We haven't seen that in the other book. So that issue hasn't come out, but I think he's gotten the special thing he needs for him to change.
Oh, that thing, yeah.
T'Challa's like, yo, like, you're not who you say you are. You're not Blade. And he's like, who are you really? And he's like, oh, okay, I'll tell you who I am. I'm Varney. So, yeah, he's Batman. He's Batman. So, Varney is the first vampire ever. So,
I thought Dracula was.
Apparently not. So, it's Varney. Okay. And Jed MacKay's pulling out some real stuff. So, I got the stuff here for you. Varney's first appearance is in Bizarre Adventures, issue number 33, 1982. Real character. And in this cool Conan book, which I thought was really fun, I actually had this book. Ooh, Conan Conan issue 245 is the origin of Varney.
Ah.
And he's on the cover.
Oh, very cool.
Isn't that cool?
Very cool.
Yeah, dude, Jed MacKay must have read a lot of crazy stuff.
Pull that thing out of his butt.
Right? So you get the origin there. So we're using real characters. Then Doom knows all this. So he's explaining so at the same time that Blade is telling Black Panther who he is, Doom is also telling Clea and Strange the same thing. So he knows the story. So he's explaining to them that Blade is not who he is. He is Varney, and he is the perfect vessel. So, for some reason, Blade being the Daywalker is exactly what Varney needed to come back to this world and be inside his body. Surprise, surprise, they attempted to do this a long time ago in the 90s. In the Blade miniseries, Blade the Vampire Hunter, issue number 5, from back in the day, a character named Marie Laveau also tried to put Varney inside of Blade's body all this time ago, and they were able to stop it. And it's crazy, Marie Laveau is also a real character from a comic book called Dracula Lives number 2 in 1973 in a special edition Marvel Comics called Curtis Comics.
Oh.
He's pulling deep, man. This is was really exciting to me. So Doom tells Doctor Strange that we need an army of magicians, of mages and wizards. And Doctor Strange says, well, good. I know a bunch of people are mages and wizards. And he's like, don't worry about it. I already put together a team, and here's the team. And it's
Strange Academy.
So that works really well that they pulled the team all together. And see how big Gus is? That's how big Gus is supposed to be. It's supposed to be huge. So he's got the team together, and there's one final caveat. Doom's like, I will help you, and the only way I can do the spell is under one condition. I need to be the Sorcerer Supreme.
Oh, jeez.
So he's like, oh, man. So we cut back, and we run into Tigra and Hunter's Moon. So this is cool. We knew that they had something important to do, and they are going to Asgard. Why is Asgard important? Because Khonshu is locked in a cell in Asgard.
Okay.
So the Asgard got pissed at Khonshu. I think it's that whole war before. You know, that one war where Khonshu was trying to get Moon Knight to kill all the Avengers?
Oh, yeah.
And so they're there to break him out. And we still, in the shadows, you get to see this mystery person talking. And it's like someone's talking to them, but you don't get to see who it is. And then once they get to the door, you can hear Khonshu, and he's like, Hunter's Moon, you're here for me, but you're not going to be able to break me out of this. You're not going to be able to break me out of the cell. And they're like, don't worry. We brought someone who can break you out. And you're like, who's the reveal character? Who's it going to be?
The Wrecker.
It's the Wrecker. Princess turned the page too quick. She ruined the reveal. It's the Wrecker from the Wrecking Crew.
Mm-hmm.
Strange character. I don't know why they decided to bring that. And they're like, how is he going to break you out of this cell? Well, the Wrecker has a Asgardian crowbar. Funny enough. So he breaks them out. That they at least show that he's going to break them out. Then we switch back to Blade. And he is completing the final ritual for what he wants to do. And he explains he needs the blood of a god in order to become a god. So he's got Thor tied up. So he's going to drink Thor's blood so that he can become a god. And he explains then that the first stage of his power was being a vampire. And then the next stage is to become this god of the Dark Force dimension. So he's going to become even a higher level, unlimited. He's like, unlimited power. And then right as he does that, T'Challa breaks loose of his mind control over him. And T'Challa attacks him. And, unlimited power! So Blade's freaking out that he finally got turned into the blood god, and everyone's like, oh, there he is. And while he does that, he looks over, and there's the moon. And then this giant moon appears right behind him, and the whole blood covenant's looking over. He's like, what? And out of nowhere, you get to see Khonshu come down, and he has his army comes pouring out, sort of like Lord of the Rings. You know, like, remember at the end of Lord of the Rings, the third one, when like the undead army like pours over and just defeats all the orcs? That's kind of like what this looks like. It's like a whole army of like his avatars like show up, and Khonshu says, like, you can see his text in the background. He's like, everyone who's ever been my avatar, I have like their bodies saved, and they can like come back and fight for me. And his army of people is led by none other than
Mark Spector?
Yeah, the Moon Knight. So it actually says the Moon Knight, and he says that he's been resurrected. His I think it says like his favorite son? Resurrected son? I'm not his favorite son. That's not his favorite. But Moon Knight may be back alive, or at least it seems that he is, right? So big reveal, Moon Knight's back to life, and he's leading his army. Then right as that happens, he's kind of like, his Blade's like gaze has been pulled somewhere else because he's looking at this Khonshu army. Then out of nowhere, T'Challa breaks away from Blade's mind control, and he pulls this knife out of, you don't really get to see where he's pulling it out of, but he pulls this knife out, and he turns around and he goes to stab Blade, and Blade easily subdues him. And he's like, dude, that was a waste of time. Like, you thought you were going to kill me with that blade? Like, why would you even try that? And he's like, oh, the blade wasn't for you. So he like pulls the blade out, and then when he turns around, the blade was what was inside Thor's heart that was keeping him immobilized. So he couldn't move with that blade in there. And so you get to see Thor basically recharging back up, all the lightning showing up on him. He's like, all right, I'm a god to god, let's fight. And right behind Thor is the rest of the Avengers, and basically leading up to the big battle where it's like, the Avengers versus the Blood Coven. So, bunch of really cool stuff. This book didn't lead you anywhere else. They're like, hey, read this other story, and you get to see what happens. Like, this guy left over here. See where it goes in. I felt like this was a really good, complete story, and then like leads directly into what's going to be Bloodhunt 5. So, I'm really excited. I really like that they pulled all those other characters. So, last book of the day. It's kind of, we didn't end completely on Bloodhunt, but this one, Magic issue number 1, Bloodhunt tie-in. It's a one-shot.
She's hot.
Caveat for this book, also, I don't feel like this has like a ton to do with Bloodhunt, other than it's a really cool character fighting vampires. But the story's really good. Really good story inside this one. They start you out with this old story from Siberia, where this guy who ruled this kingdom, and he was stuck in a bed for like 30 years, and then these people came in and they gave him some medicine or something where he like gets out of the bed and he grows real strong and powerful, and he rules this army for a long time, and his name was like Ilya. And Ilyana Rasputin always loved the story because it was really similar to her name. You know, like she's from Russia, so it's like an old Russian tale of this guy named Ilya. And this obviously happened like a long time ago, but she's remembering the story. Then it breaks over to like these two kids who are like running in the snow in Siberia in modern time. And then they're attacked by vampires, and they grab the kids and they're like, oh, we're gonna eat you little kids and take you back to our city. And out of nowhere, Magic shows up, and you're like, oh cool, Magic's there, she's gonna save these kids. And she's like, all right, I'm gonna take you vampires down one by one. You're like, okay, Magic's gonna whoop their butt. And out of nowhere, a vampire just swoops over and punches her in the face and knocks her out. And you're like, that's weird. You know, like, I thought Magic was really powerful. And this vampire just kicked her butt. She wakes up, she's in this cage with the kids, and they're like, hey, you kids okay? Like, are you okay? Like, yeah, I'm okay. And like, they're like, all right, we're taking you back as our food source. And they take her to the city, and they're like, this is our secret vampire city that we took you to. And Magic's like, okay. Then the big guy from Ilya from the story is there, and he's this vampire lord who's over all these vampires. And this part's cool. He lets them out, and he's like, I'm going to let you guys go because we enjoy the hunt. So we'll let you into these woods, and then I'm going to hunt you down, and I'm going to kill you, eat you, give you a chance to get away. And he kind of throws around Ilya a little bit, Ilya Rasputin a little bit, magic, throws her around so she seems weak and feeble. Like, she's like, oh, and that. Then when they go to attack her, she pulls out her magic sword, magic arm, and she tells them, like, you guys are idiots. I just pretended to get caught so that I could find your secret vampire city. Now I'm going to kill you all. And so she just kills all the vampires there, and then she goes against the giant vampire lord, and he acts like he's going to be able to defeat her, and then they kind of go on like this who's faster, and so he runs away from her to try and get away, and she uses her teleporting thing and just teleports right in front of him and cuts his head off.
Oh.
And she's like, there you go, kids.
You're safe now.
You're safe now. Magic took care of the big scary vampires. Really cool book. The artwork's fantastic. Like I said, just, I don't know how, I don't see like Magic joining the fight later with all the other vampires, but
yeah,
it's fun to see Magic kill. It's like the same thing with like Wolverine. It's fun to see Wolverine kill vampires. Fun to see Magic kill vampires. So that's 3 and 4 of the Bloodhunt. I think there's only one more phase. This will end in July, so maybe only one more of these videos. How you digging it so far, Zach?
And too many side stories that don't really have any substance.
Yeah.
Though that one, I guess, was pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people's big complaints about this this event is there's way too many tie-ins. I don't know if Marvel's going to learn their lesson because obviously we bought all the tie-ins and we probably shouldn't have. And this is probably the first time I've ever read an entire event with all the tie-ins in it. I did Edge of Spider-Verse I think I did that whole one too, which that was a lot. So we'll see. It's a lot of people have enjoyed this run, so it's a pretty exciting.
Cool.
As usual, though, we'll wrap this up because it's been a long video. So do all the YouTube stuff for us: like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment. Duh. And Zach, you got anything special?
Yeah, you gotta share. How you do that is you want to make a cosplay, but an everyday cosplay that people might not know. Maybe you're gonna be the guy from The Office, cosplay as him, but just walk around, act like you're him, and people might not realize it. Just a fun everyday cosplay, you know. Wilson Fisk, all white, nice tie, you know, a couple of rings that say Fisk, see if anybody knows. Just do a cosplay every day if you can afford it. And that's how you get those cosplay gains. But the regular, like J. Jonah Jameson, how fun would that be if someone recognized
I think he
you?
has a Hitler stash. Doesn't
Might
he?
get shot, but it might be
Questionable
worth the
Hitler
cosplay.
stash.
You could just say you're Charlie Chaplin.
And just yell at people. Give me my photos, Peter Parker. They're like, who is this guy?
Who's he talking to?
That's funny. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
that'd
And
be
thank you,
funny.
Princess, for holding all the books
Yes.
for us.
Good
Fantastic
job,
job.
Princess. Rock
Until
on.
next time, stay safe and remember,
Get those gains, every single one.
don't get bit by a vampire.
Not the Bloodhunt.